The old gun range was full of noise. Men stood in groups, laughing, shouting, loading their weapons. The smell of metal and dust filled the air. It was a place where people came to show power, skill, and sometimes ego. And then she walked in. A black woman. Alone, wearing plain jeans, an old jacket, and a calm face. Her name was Maya. She didn't walk fast or slow. She didn't look around. She just moved straight to the front desk and quietly signed her name. The man behind. The desk raised an eyebrow. "You here for the local contest?" he asked. Maya nodded. He looked her up and down, confused. "You ever shoot before?" She smiled softly. "Once or twice." Behind her, a group of men saw her. They whispered, then laughed. One of them, tall, white, with a big voice, joked loudly. "Hey, boys! Looks like we got ourselves a beauty queen today. Hope she doesn't break a nail." The others laughed harder. Maya didn't look back. She walked to the practice lane and opened a small old case. Inside was a simple black pistol. It wasn't shiny, it wasn't fancy, but it was clean, very clean. She picked it up with quiet confidence. The man behind the desk whispered to another. "Who is she?" "No idea. Looks like she's never even been here before." The contest would begin in 2 days. Today was practice day. One by one, men took turns at the targets. Shots rang out. Some hit the center, some missed. Then Maya stepped up. Everyone stopped. She didn't ask for help. She didn't talk. She just loaded the gun, took a deep breath, and aimed. But she didn't shoot. She stood there, perfectly still. People stared. What was she doing? Then, bang, a single shot, and the bullet hit, near the very center. The room went quiet for a second. The same loud man laughed again. "Beginner's luck. Let's see if she can do it again." Maya said nothing. She took another bullet, loaded it, aimed, bang, this time, even closer to the center. The room was silent now. No jokes, no laughter, only eyes watching. She finished her practice. 5 shots, all 5, near perfect. She quietly cleaned her gun, packed it, and began to leave. Before stepping out the door, she turned around. "See you all at the contest." Her voice was calm, but strong. The men just stared. Outside, Maya stood near her old car. She looked at the sky, then opened her glove box and pulled out a photo. It was faded. In it, a young Maya stood beside a man in army clothes, her father. They were both smiling, holding the same gun she used today. She touched the photo gently. "I'm ready, Dad," she whispered. "Let them laugh. I know who I am." She started the car and drove away, leaving behind the sound of whispers, doubt, and surprise. But something had changed in that room. A storm was coming, and her name was Maya. The road back to Maya's home was quiet. She drove an old, silver car with one window that didn't roll up. The air was cool. Her hands stayed calm on the wheel, but her mind was full of memories. She reached a small house at the edge of the town. It wasn't fancy, just a simple place with a garden full of weeds. She parked the car, took her gun case, and went inside. The living room had no TV, just books, old photos, and one wooden chair facing a window. Maya walked over to a drawer and pulled it open. Inside, wrapped in a white cloth, was something special. Her father's army badge and a photo of him smiling in uniform. His name was James Walker. He was a quiet man, just like her, but he had eyes that watched everything. Maya remembered the first time he took her shooting. She was 9 years old. "Guns are not toys," he said. "They are tools, dangerous tools. But in the right hands, they can save lives." Maya didn't care about guns back then, but she loved her father, so she listened. Every weekend, they would go to the woods behind their house. He taught her how to breathe, how to stand, how to shoot, not to show off, but to protect herself. When Maya turned 16, something changed. One night, her father came home late. He looked tired, like he had seen something heavy. He sat her down. "This world doesn't always treat people like us fairly," he said. "But don't ever let that stop you from being powerful in your own way." She nodded. But she didn't fully understand. Not until he passed away a year later. The pain was deep. Maya stopped shooting, stopped smiling. She put everything away. The gun, the photos, the memories. For years, she stayed away from anything that reminded her of him, until last week. It was at the grocery store. She was picking up bread when she saw a flyer on the wall. Local shooting competition, cash prize, open to all. She stared at it for a long time. Something inside her woke up. Not for money, not for fame, but for him. Now standing in her living room, Maya placed the badge gently on the table. She looked at the gun case beside it. "They laughed," she whispered. "Just like you said they would." But this time she was ready, not just to shoot, but to stand tall. She grabbed a pen and paper and started writing. Not a letter, not a journal, a training plan. For the next few days, Maya woke up early. She ran around her block to build her focus. She practiced shooting in the woods with her old setup. She trained not just her aim, but her mind. Every missed shot reminded her why she started. Every bullseye whispered, "He'd be proud." At the range, people were still talking. Who is she? Where did she learn to shoot? Do you think she'll come back? Some hoped she wouldn't. Some feared that she would, but Maya wasn't thinking about them. She was thinking about the final target, the one her father said was hardest to hit, the one where everyone is watching and you still stay calm. Late one night, Maya stood alone in the woods. She placed a tiny coin on an old log, stepped back, breathed deep, and fired. Ping! The coin flew into the dark trees. She smiled. "I'm almost ready." The day before the contest, the gun range was packed. People were everywhere, cleaning guns, checking targets, and whispering about the same woman, Maya. Some still laughed when they said her name. Others stayed quiet, unsure what to expect. At the far end of the range, Tom, the loud man who laughed at her the first day, stood with his friends. He wore expensive gear, shiny goggles, and a smug look. "I heard she's back today," he said, smirking. "I hope she doesn't trip and fall on her way to the lane." His friends laughed, but their laughter faded quickly, because just then, Maya walked in. She wasn't wearing anything fancy, just a simple black jacket and jeans. But something was different. Her steps were strong, her face was calm, and her eyes, they were focused. The same man behind the desk from last time looked up. "You're back," she nodded. "I said I would be." She signed her name again, grabbed her lane number, and headed to the same spot she practiced at before. But this time, everyone was watching. Tom couldn't help himself. He walked over with a smile that wasn't friendly. "You sure you're in the right place, sweetheart? The cooking contest is down the street." Maya looked at him, then at his gun, and then back at his face. She didn't smile. She didn't speak. She simply turned away and began preparing her weapon. Tom stood, there for a second, confused. "No comeback?" he asked loudly. She didn't answer. He shook his head and walked away. A few minutes later, the practice round began. Everyone had 5 bullets. Everyone had one target. People lined up and began shooting. Bang, bang, bang. Tom hit 4 out of 5 in the inner circle. His friends cheered. Then it was Maya's turn. She stepped up, breathed deep, aimed. Bang! The first bullet hit dead center. People gasped. Bang, bang, bang. All 3 hit the center again. Now the room was quiet. Even Tom wasn't laughing. Maya loaded her last bullet. She paused, then fired. Bullseye. The judge at the front spoke. "Perfect score." Someone in the back clapped. Then another. Then another. Soon the whole room was clapping, except Tom. He stood frozen. After practice, as Maya packed her bag, a young woman came up to her. She looked nervous. "Excuse me, I just wanted to say, you were amazing. I've never seen anyone shoot like that." Maya smiled kindly. "Thank you." "Where did you learn?" Maya looked at her. Her eyes softened. "From someone who taught me to stay calm when others expect you to break." The girl smiled back. As Maya left the range, she passed Tom. He stared at her, trying to think of something to say. But words didn't come. She looked him in the eye and said softly, "Sometimes silence is louder than a joke." Then she walked away. Outside, the sky was turning orange with sunset. Maya got into her car and sat quietly for a moment. She looked at her hands, steady and strong. "Tomorrow," she whispered, "it's not about showing them. It's about showing me." She drove off, her mind clear. The big day was coming, and she wasn't just ready. She was powerful. The sun rose slowly over the city. Maya stood in front of her mirror, buttoning her jacket. Her hands didn't shake. Her eyes were calm. Today wasn't just a contest. It was a moment of truth. She picked up her father's badge and slipped it into her pocket. "With me. Always," she whispered. Then she grabbed her case and walked out the door. At the gun range, cars were already lining up. It was more crowded than ever. Reporters stood outside. A local news truck was parked near the fence. Everyone wanted to see who would win. Inside, competitors checked their gear. Some smiled, some looked nervous, and some whispered when Maya walked past. But she didn't hear them. She went straight to her lane, lane 7, just like before. Tom was already there. He stood with his team, laughing louder than ever. His jacket had his name stitched in gold letters. He pointed at Maya and said loudly, "There she is, Miss Mystery Shooter. Hope you packed more than luck today." Maya didn't even turn her head. Her silence made him uncomfortable. He looked away first. The announcer stepped forward with a microphone. "Welcome to the State Shooting Championship." Maya sat alone on the bench behind the gun range. The cheering crowd was gone. The contest was over. Her medal hung around her neck, shining in the soft afternoon light. But Maya didn't look at it. She held a small envelope in her hand, the one the judge gave her after the win. She hadn't opened it yet. Suddenly, footsteps approached. It was Tom, the same man who laughed at her on her first day. The same man who mocked her clothes, her silence, and her presence. But today, he wasn't laughing. He stood in front of her for a moment, quiet. Then he sat down beside her. "You were incredible," he said without looking at her. "I didn't expect that." Maya didn't reply. He continued. "I've been shooting since I was 10. I've won 5 competitions. I always thought I was the best in the room. Until today." She looked at him slowly. "And what do you think now?" Tom sighed. "Now I think I've been blind and maybe a little stupid." There was a long pause. Maya finally spoke. "You didn't laugh at me because I was weak. You laughed because you didn't understand me. That's what people do when they're afraid of what they don't know." Tom looked down. "You're right." He looked at the medal around her neck. "Do you know what made you better than all of us?" She shook her head. "It wasn't just the shooting. It was how you never let anger lead you, not once." Maya smiled softly. "That's what my father taught me. He was a quiet man, too." "But strong?" Tom asked, curious now. "Was he a shooter?" She nodded. "Police officer. He trained every weekend. He said shooting is not about speed or power. It's about the heart behind the trigger." Tom listened silently. The words stayed with him. Maya opened the envelope slowly. Inside was a note and a check. The note read, "For the champion with the calmest hand and the strongest spirit. Your shot made history." Tom leaned over. You made history today. I hope you know that. Maya folded the note gently and put it back. My win was never about the trophy. It was about remembering him and believing in myself again. Tom looked away, his voice lower now. Do you think people like me can change? She looked at him for a long moment. Only if you want to. They sat there for a few more minutes. No noise, just wind and the soft sound of leaves moving. Tom stood up to leave, but before he walked away, he turned back. Thank you for showing me something real. Maya nodded once. Goodbye, Tom, and with that, he walked away, quieter than she'd ever seen him. Later that evening, Maya went home. She placed the medal beside her father's badge. Then she looked in the mirror, the same one she stood in front of that morning. But now, something had changed. She didn't just see herself. She saw strength. She saw pride. She saw peace. Outside, the sun was setting, and the sky was full of gold. And in that golden light, Maya smiled. The next morning, Maya walked into a small community center. It was quiet, but warm. On the wall were old photos, black and white pictures, of men and women holding rifles, medals, and certificates. A woman in her 60s stood behind the front desk. Her eyes lit up when she saw Maya. You're the young lady from the shooting contest, right? The one who made history? Maya smiled politely. Yes, ma'am. I just wanted to visit this place. My father used to bring me here. The woman stepped closer. What was his name? Edward Lewis. The woman's smile grew wider. Eddie Lewis? Oh my, he trained here for years. He was one of the best. She walked Maya to the back of the room. There, on the wall, was a photo. A younger version of her father stood tall, holding a trophy. Beside him were 5 other black shooters. This, the woman said, pointing to the photo, was the first black shooting team in our state. Your father helped start it. Maya stepped closer. Her eyes began to tear up. He never told me. He was quiet about his wins, but he always said his daughter would be better than him one day. Maya looked down, touched. I hope he saw me yesterday. The woman placed a hand on Maya's shoulder. I think he did. She pointed at a plaque on the wall. Maya walked over and read the small golden words, to the future shooter who reminds us where we came from. Underneath it, Maya saw a blank space. We've been waiting for someone special to add here, the woman said. And after yesterday, we think it should be you. Maya couldn't speak. The moment felt heavy and beautiful. Later, the local news ran a story. Young black woman makes history at state shooting championship. People across the country began talking. Some were surprised. Some were inspired. Some were silent, thinking. At a small high school, students gathered around a phone watching the news clip. One student said, "She doesn't even look like a shooter." Another replied, "That's what they thought, and look what she did." Meanwhile, Maya sat in her room watching the news quietly. She wasn't chasing fame, but she knew the story was bigger than just a medal. It was about breaking walls, about silence being stronger than shouting, and about never underestimating someone just because they're different. Her phone buzzed. It was a message from the competition organizers. We'd like you to speak at our next event. Young shooters need to hear your story. Maya stared at the message for a while. She had never given a speech before. She was shy. She liked to stay quiet. But now, maybe it was time to speak. She typed one line back. I'll do it. Thank you. Later that night, she sat at her desk with a notebook. She began to write down what she would say. It started simply. I was laughed at for how I looked, for being quiet, for being different. But I kept going, because I knew who I was. She paused, then added another line. You don't need to shout to make history. Sometimes one quiet shot is loud enough for the world to hear. She closed the notebook and smiled. The journey wasn't over. It had only just begun. The hall was full. Young people, parents, teachers, and even news reporters sat quietly, all waiting for one person. Maya stood behind the stage curtain, holding her speech, paper tightly. Her hands were shaking. Her heart beat fast. She had never spoken in front of so many people. A woman from the event staff touched her shoulder. "You're up next, Maya. Just speak from your heart." Maya took a deep breath, and then she stepped out onto the stage. The room became silent. All eyes were on her. She walked to the podium slowly. The lights felt hot. The paper in her hand shook a little, but then she remembered her father and how he used to say, "You don't have to be loud to be strong." She looked up. "Hello?" she said softly. Still the room stayed quiet, so she continued. "A few days ago, I was laughed at because of how I looked. I was quiet. I was black. I didn't wear expensive clothes. Some people thought I didn't belong at the gun range." She paused. "But when I pulled the trigger for the first shot, something changed. Not just for them, but for me too." The crowd leaned in. "That shot wasn't just about winning. It was about every time someone told me I wasn't enough, every time I was ignored or laughed at or told I didn't fit in." She looked around. Some people nodded. Some wiped their eyes. "There are people like me in every room, quiet, different, and often unseen. But we are not weak. We are not invisible." Maya held up her medal. "We are strong. We just need one moment to prove it." The room suddenly filled with clapping, then louder, then standing ovation. Backstage, as she walked off, people lined up to shake her hand. Kids told her she inspired them. Parents hugged her and said, "Thank you." One girl, about 12 years old, said, "I want to shoot like you one day, but more than that, I want to be brave like you." Maya smiled with tears in her eyes. "You already are." Weeks later, Maya's story appeared in magazines, blogs, and TV interviews. But she stayed humble. She continued to train. She visited schools. She taught young girls how to shoot with care and control, and she always reminded them, it's not just about hitting a target. It's about knowing who you are when you pull the trigger. One morning, she visited her father's grave. She placed her medal on the stone for a moment. "I hope I made you proud." The wind blew gently, as if answering her. Later, a new photo was placed on the wall of the community center, right beside her father's. In it, Maya stood tall, medal on her neck, and a calm smile on her face. Below it, a plaque read, she didn't raise her voice, but the world heard her anyway. Maya's name became more than a champion's name. It became a symbol of courage, of quiet power, and of the truth that no one should be judged by their looks, their silence, or their skin.